Hello, people. Welcome to the session. I am Rachita Sachdeva, your chemistry teacher at a very prestigious platform of Physics Wala. I hope you guys are doing awesome, blossoms of mast honge, swasth honge. So, guys, in today's session, we will be going through second part of carbon and its compound. By any chance, if you have missed your first part, then please go have a look because everything is interrelated in this chapter. So why I brought two parts, I've already discussed that with you because it's a very lengthy chapter. It's something new to you guys. So obviously you require the foundational knowledge for that. So because I gave you a basic information about each and everything, obviously that requires a lot of time and efforts. So please go check that out. Take your time, understand all the basics, fundamentals of carbon and its compound because that will be very, very helpful for you if you are planning to give any competitive exams further. So let's get ourselves started and solve a lot of chemical locha together. Chak de fate, guys. Carbon and its compound part 2. So let's take a look what all things we'll be covering in this particular part. So we will be completing all the chemical properties. So in part 1, we have finished up till IUPAC nomenclature. We have completed isomerism, we have completed homologous series, we have completed why carbon is versatile in nature and so on. Now in this part, a complete focus will be on chemical properties of carbon, which includes 4 chemical lochas. That means a lot of chemical reactions waiting for you guys. Then we'll be moving on to the properties of ethanol and ethanoic acid, both chemical as well as physical properties. And this is one of the most interesting topic. That's what I know from my past experience. Children always have some attraction towards this topic. I am not sure why, but yeah, we'll be going through this as well. And lastly, something you all can relate with, soaps and detergents that we use in our day-to-day life. So let's get ourselves started. All right, guys. So just a quick practice from your last session. Try this out and do let me know the answers in the chat box. And whoever gives the correct answer, I would really come there and appreciate you. That's my promise. So these are 2 structures. In this, I've already given you the numbering. So it must be easier for you to answer. By any chance, if you forgot the rules and regulations, so go back to part 1, revise it and come back again. So these are 2 questions where you have to give the correct IUPAC nomenclature. Chale aage? I hope you all can do it. I will be waiting for your answers in the chat box. Alright guys, so now let's begin with chemical locha of carbon and its compound. Chemical locha bole to a lot of chemical reactions. We have to see that how hydrocarbons or carbon compounds are able to react with some other elements and how they actually behave towards oxygen, how they actually behave towards combustion or once we burn them. So what all happened in carbon compounds chemically that we will be learning under chemical properties of carbon and its compound. Starting up with combustion. What is combustion? Combustion बोले तो आग लगा देंगे. So आग लगा देंगे बोले तो we will burn, we will heat compounds of carbon. That means hydrocarbon, compounds of hydrogen and carbon. We're going to combust them and that results into formation of carbon dioxide and water. Moving on to second, oxidation. Now, oxidation you have already learned in your very first chapter, that is chemical reactions and equations under a topic redox reactions. So you learned what oxidation here is. There is a slight change here that you need to learn under this topic. Then third is addition reaction and it goes exactly by its name, to add something. And next is substitution, that is your fourth chemical property. So let's learn them one by one and what are the important questions, what are the important concepts that you keep in mind which comes in your paper. I will be focusing on that as well. So please keep your pen and paper handy. Okay, combustion. Now the best part about combustion, this is one of my favorite reaction because the beauty of this reaction is you always get same product Isn't that amazing? See, guys, if you are combusting methane, methane is what? It's the simplest, most hydrocarbon, it's the simplest, most alkane carbon compound. Once you combust bole to you burn them in presence of oxygen, that always gives you carbon dioxide as well as carbon dioxide plus water. And heat and light is always produced here. Now, if I take any other hydrocarbon, now let's take C2H6, right, which is ethane. And if I combust this also, that would also result in the same product, which is carbon dioxide, water, heat, and light. In fact, if you combust any other hydrocarbon also, that results into the same product. So that's the beauty of this particular reaction. So there are different kind of combustion. One that you can actually relate from your kitchen. So if you have ever noticed while switching on the flame in your kitchen, sometimes it gives a yellow color flame and sometimes it gives you a blue clean flame. Have you ever wondered why there is actually a difference? Even though your flamer is one, you have that stove only since few years, still sometimes you see yellow flame coming out of it, sometimes you observe a blue clean flame. So there are two types of combustions which actually happen. Now, as we begin with this chapter in part 1 of carbon and its compound, I told you that LPGs, CNGs, petroleums, these are all examples of carbon compounds. So let me tell you guys, LPG, which is liquid petroleum gas, those cylinders that we are using in kitchen also have carbon compounds in them. So obviously, as they undergo combustion, they also releases carbon dioxide, water, heat, and light. Now, if it goes complete combustion, so that will result into formation of blue clean flame. But if there is incomplete combustion happens when your stove is not cleaned properly or gas is about to finish. So you might have noticed that few utensils turn black from the bottom. So that the reason behind that is because in incomplete combustion, they actually produce soot. Soot is black color which settles onto the bottom of the utensils, but you can easily wash and clean them. So incomplete combustion, complete combustion. Now what's the major difference between these two? Other than the color of flame, in complete combustion, you will get carbon dioxide and water as the product. Whereas in incomplete combustion, you will get carbon monoxide and water as the product. And guys, carbon monoxide, we all know that it is the silent poison. So you have to take care about this at your home also, that you should not inhale carbon monoxide for a long time, because you won't be able to recognize that there is no smell, there is no taste, there is no color. That's why it is called to be as a silent killer. Yes, it's called as silent killer. So there is incomplete and complete combustion. So there is a major difference which is given to you on screen. Sometimes you get question in your MCQ related to complete and incomplete combustion. So let's take a look here. So insufficient amount available for oxygen, that is complete. When there is insufficient amount of oxygen available, then we call it as incomplete combustion, which results into formation of carbon monoxide and water as a product. And in complete, you will get carbon dioxide and water. Whereas if we talk about flame, clean blue flame, incomplete, that means in space complete. Okay? And in incomplete combustion, you will get a sooty yellow or orange color flame. Now, if we talk about smoke, in complete combustion, there would be no smoke because flame is quite clean. Whereas in incomplete combustion, there would be a sooty flame that will always give you a black color smoke, which is definitely harmful for your health. So, complete combustion, global warming from carbon dioxide can be the reason, and an incomplete air pollution from carbon monoxide and smoke. So, in both the cases, it's bad to the environment, but definitely we cannot survive without that. So I hope you understand. Still, if you have any doubts, feel free to ask in the chat box. Alright guys, now as you have already learnt about oxidation, now you must be thinking, ma'am, is there a difference between combustion or oxidation? Because combustion always happens in presence of oxygen because we burn them, and burning always takes place in presence of oxygen. And same thing is for oxidation also. Oxidation also is the add of oxygen. Guys, there is a very thin line difference between these two terms, and most of the time children get confused. So let's take a look here. Oxidation is when substance reacts with oxygen. That means the oxygen which is present in air or water. And as you've learned under redox reaction, oxidation bole to add of oxygen or loss of hydrogen. This is what you guys have seen. In oxidation reaction, it's not necessary that heat and light will always be evolved. Whereas in combustion reaction, heat and light will always be evolved along with carbon dioxide and water are your fixed products. Whereas under oxidation, that's not true. Under oxidation, it's not fixed product always. That depends upon the reactant, right? Now in combustion, it involves burning to get a substance to react with oxygen. So all combustion reactions are a type of oxidation reactions, but all oxidation reactions are not combustion reactions. So please try to clarify this thin line difference between oxidation and combustion. All right, on that positive note, let's start with what is oxidation what is oxidation? So now let's understand what does oxidation means once it comes to carbon compounds. So one thing that you need to keep in mind here is when hydrocarbon undergoes oxidation, that always happens in presence of a very specific oxidizing agent. And what's that? Let's take a look. So as we have alcohol here, alcohol is undergoing oxidation. ठीक है बोले तो add of oxygen, but that happens always in presence of a specific oxidizing agent, and that is either acidified potassium dichromate or alkaline KMnO3, that is potassium permanganate. So please remember that any one of these as an oxidizing agent will be used in this reaction, and you have to mention that on the arrow. So once alcohol undergoes oxidation, that always results into carboxylic acid plus water. So here ethanol is undergoing oxidation, that always form ethanoic acid. So to make your job simpler, let me write this down for you. Alcohol on oxidation. Okay, and oxidation is happening in presence of either acidified potassium dichromate, that is K2Cr2O7, or alkaline KMnO4, which is potassium permanganate. That always results into formation of acid, okay, or to be specific, carboxylic acid. Please note this thing. Fine, I hope that is clear to all of you. So ethanol once undergoes oxidation, that forms ethanoic acid. Now carbon number will always be constant. There would be no change in carbon that will going to happen from reactant to product. For example, if ethanol is undergoing oxidation, in this case that will form ethanoic acid plus water. That means it bole to 2 carbon, it bole to 2 carbon, ethanol for it means also 2 carbon. Now in case I take propanol, propanol bole to if the compound is for 3 carbon atom, alcohol compound is for 3 carbon atom, which undergoes oxidation, so that results into propanoic acid. What it will form? That will form propanoic acid plus water. Is that clear to all of you? Yes, give me a thumbs up in chat box. Now, if I do this reaction for butanol, tell me what would be the product form. If butanol undergoes oxidation in presence of acidified potassium dichromate or alkaline KMnO4, that results into dash plus water. Fill in the blanks. Come on, guys, let's do it. So that was all about oxidation. ठीक से समझ लो. Okay, now moving on to our next and very, very important reaction, that is addition reaction. So what does addition means? To add something simply, right? So this is what happening here also, but there are few conditions applied in carbon and its compound. So if hydrocarbons are undergoing addition reaction, the first thing that you need to keep in mind, it's specific for unsaturated hydrocarbon. What does unsaturated hydrocarbon means? If you go and look for your part 1 of carbon and its compound, I have given you a flow chart related to types of hydrocarbon. So there are two types of hydrocarbons, saturated and unsaturated. Saturated bole to carbon-carbon single bond, that means alkanes. Unsaturated bole to alkenes and alkynes, which have multiple bonds between carbon and carbon. Right? So only unsaturated hydrocarbon bole to which has multiple bonds. That means alkenes or alkynes have the ability to give addition reaction. Now, addition reaction always takes place in presence of a catalyst. Now, most of the students have this confusion about what does catalyst do. See, catalyst is a substance which helps to alter the rate of reaction without participating into it. So, catalyst is like very non-profitable kind of thing. It always helps, but it does not take back anything from them. So catalyst helps to alter, usually increases the rate of reaction without participating into the reaction. Rate of reaction bole to speed of reaction. So here, as addition will happen in unsaturated hydrocarbon, that means which have multiple bonds between carbon and carbon, maybe double bond or triple bond, that happens only in presence of catalysts. Now, what are the catalysts? Which is always specific, either palladium or nickel. Palladium, which is symbolized as Pd. Nickel is symbolized as Ni. So, these are two catalysts. Either one of them can be used in a reaction. Please remember, catalysts are quite specific for a reaction. They are experimentally decided. So you cannot just make up your own catalyst on your own will. That's not possible. And the best part here is, in addition reaction, we can actually make unsaturated hydrocarbon to saturated hydrocarbon. Yes, this particular reaction has the power to convert double bond into single bond, or has the power to convert triple bond into double bond and then single bond. So eventually unsaturated hydrocarbon can be converted into saturated hydrocarbon by the help of dash reaction, and that is addition reaction. So let me show you a reaction here for more clarity. Okay. So let's say we have ethene with us. Okay? What is ethene? If you have watched the first part, you know how to make the structure of ethene. It bole to two carbons, है ना? It का मतलब क्या हुआ? What does it means? Two carbon. Ene bole to, ene means double bond, which is a part of alkene family. Now, you know that there is a general formula or a secret key for every family, and alkenes ka secret key is CnH2n. We know that N is number of carbon atom, which is 2. So if I apply this, I know that I will get C2H4. What is C2H4? It is the molecular formula. Okay, what is it? It's a molecular formula. Now, using this molecular formula, it's easier for me to make a structure. Now, what is the structure of ethene? Two carbons. I know there is a double bond present between carbon and carbon in alkenes, in enes, right? So, I'll put double bond here. Now, each and every carbon shows 4 bonds. They are tetravalent in nature. 4 bonds has to be there with each carbon atom to be satisfied. So, now, I have to distribute 4 hydrogens. One carbon has already 2 bonds. 2 more are required, which will be completed by hydrogen. On the other side, same thing will happen. and now they have 2 hydrogens, so total 4 bonds with each carbon atom, and they are satisfied. So this is the correct structure of ethene. Now, in addition reaction, it is the addition of hydrogen. If addition of hydrogen takes place, we call it as hydrogenation reaction. So it's called hydrogenation reaction. Now, it's not compulsory that only hydrogen is added. If any other halogen, bole to fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, if they are added, similarly, we will call them as halogenation reaction. For example, if chlorine is added, we call it as chlorination reaction. Okay? But here we are learning how to add hydrogen. Now, please look onto the screen very carefully. It's very, very easy reaction. Easy to make. What you have to do, we have to add these hydrogen to this particular ethene, to this compound. How we'll do? So let's break the bond. One hydrogen will be added to one carbon atom, other hydrogen would be added to other carbon atom. Simple. Okay, this happens in presence of either one of the catalysts, either nickel or palladium. Fine. Now, after the addition of hydrogen, already 2 hydrogens were there with double bond between carbon and carbon. One hydrogen is added. These are the added up hydrogen. These are the added up hydrogen on both the carbon. But is this a correct structure? Think about it. Is this the correct structure? No, guys. I told you that carbon cannot have more than 4 bonds in any case. But if you look here, this carbon has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a blunder. So this is not correct. So to make it satisfied, let's remove this one bond now. Let's remove this one bond. So what would be the structure? Final structure would be CH3, single bond CH3. So what is the name of this compound? It's ethane. So now as you can see, it's converted from ethene to ethane. It's converted from unsaturated hydrocarbon to saturated hydrocarbon, from double bond to single bond, and that's how we do it. I hope that is clear to all of you how we actually added them. So yahan se one bond is broken, yahan se one bond is broken, 2 hydrogens will be then added up to each carbon atom. That's addition reaction. But where it's actually used in our day-to-day life, do you know that? So addition reaction is actually used in an industrial process where to convert vegetable oil into vanaspati ghee. Now, vanaspati ghee is not something which you eat in your day-to-day life. No, guys. Vanaspati ghee is a dalda ghee which is not good for your health. But if you like to eat cookies, if you like to eat puffs, or what you eat, I don't remember, patties. Yeah. So if you love to eat patties and all, they put layers of dalda ghee, they put layers of this vegetable ghee, and that's not at all good for your health, guys. Try not to eat it on a daily routine basis. Once in a while, it's okay. Why it is not fit for you to eat? Mostly our parents say ghee is good for health. Eat ghee. On chapatis, they put a lot of ghee. On dal, they put a lot of ghee for us. And extra ghee portions are always fed to children. See, that ghee is very, very healthy, but ghee which has a lot of trans fat. So this dalda ghee has a lot of trans fat in it. So if you have noticed, nowadays there are chips packet coming in market called to be as a healthy chips, and they have 0% of trans fat. If you might have noticed, they've written on the packet 0% trans fat. In fact, in cookies also there are packets which is quoted 0% trans fat, 0% maida. So trans fat is basically which starts depositing in your body, and that's not good for your health. That's not good for your heart. So that's why Darda ghee is not healthy, because it has a lot of trans fat in it. But the ghee which you're eating at your home is actually very healthy. So you should continue eating that. All right, guys, moving on to our next chemical lotion, that is substitution reaction. Now, you all know the meaning of this term, substitution. Those who get frequent substitution classes in school, one teacher is absent, other teacher will come and substitute. So in my time when I was in school, mostly when a subject teacher is absent, we always get a games period as a substitution. But I have actually observed these days, schools are not giving games period as a substitution nowadays. They are putting one more subject instead of that. So that's a sad thing, I would say. So we always enjoyed if any teacher gets absent, which is a guilty pleasure. So in school, if any teacher gets absent, we would be like so happy that it's now games period. We have to go out, play. But now if one teacher is absent, you are substituted with another subject teacher, which is actually good in some ways. I would not say it's bad. So you know what does substitution means. One goes and other one will comes and takes its position. So this is what is happening here in this hydrocarbons also, in carbon and its compound as well. Now there is a condition applied. As you guys have seen, addition reaction was only given by unsaturated hydrocarbons. Similarly, substitution reaction can only be given by saturated hydrocarbon. Saturated hydrocarbon bole to alkanes bole to single bond between carbon and carbon. So only saturated hydrocarbon has this ability to give substitution reaction. But actually, whom we are substituting here? So the one thing which can be substituted is hydrogen. Obviously, carbon cannot be substituted. It's the main element of the compound. So hydrogen is left, which can be substituted very easily. Now, substitution reaction takes place in presence of sunlight. That is another condition. Unlike addition reaction was happening in presence of catalyst, either nickel or palladium. Whereas substitution reaction is actually happening in presence of sunlight or UV light. Now, one symbol that you can see on screen is a symbol for sunlight, which is not given in your books. But if you use this in your board exams, no one can make this incorrect. This is absolutely acceptable symbol for sunlight. This is H. H bole to Planck's constant, and this is nu. This is a symbol for frequency. So it's okay if you want to use the symbol or you just want to write sunlight. It's completely up to your comfortable level. Cool? All right. Cool. Now let's do this reaction. Let's try it out. So if I take methane here, let's take methane as the hydrocarbon, and to undergo substitution reaction, I used chlorine. Okay? Chlorine will be substituting hydrogen from methane. This reaction takes place in presence of sunlight. How will this happen? How will chlorine substitute hydrogen? So in presence of sunlight, energy would be very, very high. We are giving external energy which help to break these bonds. As this bond will be broken, chlorine will go and substitute one of the hydrogen. So chlorine will going to take possession of hydrogen and one hydrogen would be out. So this hydrogen will make bond with chlorine, results into formation of HCl. Plus, here one of the hydrogen gets substituted by chlorine and that results into formation of compound with 3H and 1 Cl. What is that? What's the name of this compound? IUPAC nomenclature for this compound is chloromethane. Samajla? Now, another thing that you need to remember, if any reaction is using sunlight to proceed, those reactions are chain reaction, stepwise reaction. So this is not over yet. This is just the one step of the reaction, and this will continue till the time all hydrogens are substituted by chlorine. Is that clear? Now, instead of chlorine, you can use any other halogen. Bromine can also be used. Fluorine can also be used. Okay? So now next step will be using the same product, CH3Cl plus chlorine, that is Cl2. I've written Cl2 like this, in presence of sunlight. Now what would happen? One more chlorine will substitute one more H. This H will make bond with the chlorine here. Okay, so what would be the final product? CH2 Cl2 plus HCl. Now what is the IUPAC nomenclature of this compound? On one carbon atom there are two chlorine, so that would be 1,1 dichloro. How come? 1,1. So on this one carbon only, there is one chlorine, there is another chlorine. So I have to give the position for both the chlorine, and I have to write di here. Di for two substituent. If there are three, so I will put tri. Okay, if there are four, I would use tetra. So dichloromethane. Okay, that's the IUPAC nomenclature. But still, this is not over. There is another step awaiting here. So third step is where 1,1 dichloromethane again undergoes reaction with chlorine in presence of sunlight, which in return gives another substitution. So one more chlorine will be substituted by another H. Okay? That gives you CHCl plus HCl. So it is 1,1,1 trichloromethane. Samajla? Now it will go another step, because what I told you, this reaction will go on till the time all the H's are substituted by chlorine. So your last step would be CHCl plus chlorine. So last chlorine, we're going to substitute this hydrogen in presence of sunlight. That gives you CCl4. CCl4 plus HCl. What is this? CCl4. It is called carbon tetrachloride. Right? Now, one more thing. Please mark it here. CHCl3. CHCl3. What is this? Where is it used? So I'll give you one hint here. This is used in hospitals. This is also used in movies to make anyone unconscious. Yeah. So bujho to jane. What's this? It's none other than chloroform. So CHCl3 is the formula for chloroform. So in this entire process of substitution, we can actually form chloroform. Clear? So now if this reaction is going on and we need to extract chloroform, we have the ability to stop this reaction in between and we can extract chloroform from here. So yes, chloroform is made by this process, which is substitution of methane in presence of sunlight. Yeah, solid. All right, guys. So on that positive note, let's move on to our next topic. So as we are done with all the chemical properties, we have completed combustion, oxidation, substitution, addition. There are a few things that you need to keep in mind. Let me summarize that for you. Oxidation and combustion are completely different from each other with a thin line difference. Okay? Combustion के अंदर heat and light will always be evolved, whereas it's not possible to have heat and light fixed in case of oxidation. Okay? Now as we go to substitution, substitution reaction is only given by saturated hydrocarbon. Saturated hydrocarbon बोले तो single bond compound, that means alkane. They are given in presence of sunlight. It's a chain reaction or it's a stepwise reaction. Okay? In this particular process only, you are able to get chloroform as well. Now, if we talk about addition reaction only takes place in unsaturated hydrocarbon. Unsaturated can be converted into saturated hydrocarbon under addition reaction in presence of catalyst, which is nickel or palladium. And it is having an industrial use also to convert vegetable oil into vanaspati ghee as well. Sorted here? Clear here? So please make some charts for yourself. Summarize these things for later clarity. So before you go for your exams, at least you should have some pages with you where you can just go through those pointers which are really needed for you to understand that particular concept. Okay, and we actually call it as cheat sheet. So one day I will also try to bring a cheat sheet session for you, how to create cheat sheets and what are exactly cheat sheets. It's not something which helps in cheating, don't worry. There is nothing illegal about it. Okay guys, so let's move on to ethanol and ethanoic acid. So as I told you, we will be doing physical and chemical properties of ethanol and ethanoic acid. So what is ethanol? What is the formula of ethanol? So let me break down this thing for you all. Eth means 2 carbon atom. An बोले तो single bond. ठीक है? Ol is actually functional group for alcohol. So if we try to make a structure for ethanol, it's 2 carbon with single bond. OH is there for functional group of alcohol. Rest of the carbons would be satisfied by tetravalency. Okay? By placing hydrogen, each carbon atoms will going to complete their tetravalency. So here CH3, CH2, OH. So I can write this thing in condensed form, CH3, CH2OH, or a molecular form, that is C2H5OH. All of these are same. Okay? And we name it as ethanol. So guys, ethanol is one of the consumable alcohols. So you know what is consumable alcohol. No one is seedha here, right? But there are different variations which can be created in ethanol if we mix a few things in it. We can actually make them poisonous also, and I will talk about this in detail as well. So common name for ethanol is ethyl alcohol. Please remember these common names because in exams nowadays they are asking you questions related to common names. They are giving you questions based upon common names. So please don't get confused later on. Okay? So ethanol is commonly called as ethyl alcohol. Now in ethanol, if we put 5% water and rest 95% is ethanol, we call it as rectified spirit, which is used as commercial alcohol. Okay? That's something which is consumed in market. 100% or pure ethanol is called absolute alcohol. Then if ethanol is mixed with some amount of methanol, or ethanol if it's mixed with pyridine, which is one of the carbon compound only, that makes it a denatured alcohol. Now, are they safe to consume? So please listen to me very, very carefully. If you observe news around you, or if you observe what is happening around you, there are sometimes mass people who get hospitalized after they consume alcohol. Have you heard? Especially it happens in small villages that so many people got hospitalized after drinking alcohol. Why? Why? Is that not pure? So yes, they are actually denatured alcohol. See, just to make alcohol companies more profitable, they just sell bad alcohol into small villages, so they get sick very easily. Why? Because methanol is something which actually reacts with your liver and it tries to coagulate. Coagulate bole to, if you have seen how egg gets cooked. So egg is liquidy material and once you cook it, it coagulates and convert into kind of a bhurji. है ना? Same thing happens with our liver also if methanol is being intaked by a human person. So that coagulation of liver can actually lead to so many malfunctions in the organs. Uh, it might result into the eyesight loss also, or eventually a person could die. So it is quite harmful. So you have to be very, very careful while consuming alcohol, which I am not telling, which I am not promoting at all, because you should not consume alcohol. Why? Because your brain stops working, man. You start disbalancing. Your brain does not coordinate with what you're speaking and how you're moving. So that's a complete mess, right? So yeah, I'm not promoting it at all. So ethanol is mixed with methanol or little bit of pyridine will give you denatured alcohol. Now guys, in labs and all, in earlier time, if I tell you the truth, earlier, uh, pure alcohol was supposed to be delivered to industries for obviously for producing something else, or pure alcohol was supposed to be delivered to laboratories also for further experiments. But there was a misuse which was observed. Misuse how people consume in industries or laboratories. So government, while using it for commercial purpose, they have placed a limit for alcohol, and they have started introducing denatured alcohol. They have started mixing some of the chemicals which makes them unconsumable. So that's the only reason when they have started mixing few things to make it unconsumable, to stop the misuse in industries or at laboratory level. So I hope you understand that. All right, guys. So as I was talking, not to consume alcohol, otherwise what will happen? This. So complete body undergoes disbalance. Your brain areas stop controlling your memory, your speech, judgment, resulting in higher likelihood of injuries as well. You cannot see properly. There is blur eyesight, which or blur vision, which comes, slurred speech, hearing, lack of control, and it's a total mess. So yeah, you should not drink. Okay. So now, as we are talking more about ethanol, let's learn more about its physical properties. Now, what are the physical properties of ethanol? They are volatile. Volatile bole to, which can evaporate very easily. So, ethanol are volatile in nature. Flammable. Absolutely. In cheesy Bollywood movies, if you've seen, there is a song going and on that bar counter, somebody spills the alcohol, they put fire, and they start dancing. Have you seen such cheesy Bollywood movies? Yeah. So everyone knows that alcohol is flammable. So yes, it is flammable. Colorless liquid with pleasant odor. Now this odor could be pleasant for few people and for others it could not be. Produced by fermentation of sugar by yeast, ethanol is commonly called alcohol, which is active ingredient for alcoholic drinks, as we discussed. Consumable alcohol, which is soluble in water. Ah, वाटर छोड़ो सोडा में भी soluble है. So yes, ethanol is soluble in water in all proportion. Now what are its major uses? Now guys, alcohol is not only used for industrial purpose or commercial use, but it is also used as an antifreeze in automobile radiators. Not only that, it is also used in paints, lacquers, varnishes, dyes, cosmetic, perfumes, tinctures. If you remember, you guys have learned about tincture of iodine in grade 9 under solute and solvent. Tincture of iodine has iodine as a solute and alcohol as a solvent in them, as well as cough syrups. Why we're not used to take cough syrups before we go for exams or any test? Because we tend to sleep. Why we feel so sleepy after we take cough syrup? Because it has alcohol in it. So nowadays, many pharmacists or many pharmacy companies are actually coming with alcohol syrups without alcohol, which can be consumed before you go for your test or any important thing. And even you can drive after consuming it. But yeah, most of the cough syrups actually have alcohol content in them. Now, another use is starting a material for the manufacture of ether, chloroform, and iodoform. So, alcohol is also used in as a raw material for the preparation of chloroform, ethene, and iodoform also. Now, what are the chemical lochas done by ethanol? See, brain locha, chemical locha is done already. If you consume it in large amount, it's akka body locha that will happen. But what are the chemical lochas which happen in ethanol? What will happen if ethanol reacts with sodium? What will happen if we try to dehydrate ethanol? Dehydrate bole to, if we try to remove water from ethanol, what would be the product? So let's take a look. So chemical properties of ethanol. Ethanol bole to C2H5OH. It's better if I open it and write it. In your notebook also, you should open this and write a reaction. It's easier for you to learn the products. You don't have to ratify this, guys. It's easier for you to make the products. Just listen and focus. How I'm making the products here. If it's reacting with sodium, okay, sodium will take position of hydrogen here. So what will happen? Sodium will take a position of hydrogen. Hydrogen will go out. So that will make CH3, CH2ONA plus H2. Okay, you can then balance the reaction. Fine, I hope that's clear. So CH3, CH2OH. Na has replaced H here. That gives you CH3, CH2ONA plus hydrogen. This is called as sodium ethoxide. This is called as sodium ethoxide, and hydrogen gas would be liberated. Cool, 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 cool. Okay, moving on to dehydration reaction. Now, how does dehydration reaction happens on alcohol? CH3, CH2, OH, that's the structure of ethanol in presence of concentrated sulfuric acid. Now, please note this, it comes in your board exams also. What's the use of concentrated sulfuric acid in dehydration reaction or reaction of ethanol to give unsaturated hydrocarbon? What's the use of concentrated sulfuric acid? So here, concentrated sulfuric acid is used as dehydrating agent. How is it used? It's used as dehydrating agent. What does dehydrating agent means? Dehydrating agent helps to extract water by breaking bonds and making a new product. So dehydrating agent helps to extract water from the particular compound, changing all the bonds and changing into a completely new product. How is that happening? Let's take a look. So CH3, CH2OH in presence of concentrated sulfuric acid, and if you miss writing this down, you will definitely lose marks. So water will be gone, HOH. So these two bonds will be broken. Water will be coming out. That's dehydration. And what is left here? What is left is CH2 bond CH2. Is this stable? No, because each carbon has only 3 bonds. So if I make one more bond here, that would give me ethene. So what's the product name? Ethene. So ethanol will produce ethene plus water. So yeah, it converts into unsaturated hydrocarbon. So as we discussed, how to convert alcohol into unsaturated by the help of a dehydration reaction, where concentrated sulfuric acid is acting as a dehydrating agent, helps to extract water from ethanol and gives you ethene. Now, same thing can happen in propanol also. Propanol can also undergo dehydration reaction and gives you propene. So, water will be extracted out from the product in presence of again concentrated sulfuric acid, which is a dehydrating agent. So let's move on to our next topic, that is ethanoic acid. Guys, ethanoic acid is acetic acid. So let's first learn how to make the structure of ethanoic acid. So let's break it down. Ethane plus oic acid, or eth plus ane plus oic acid. Eth बोले तो 2 carbon, ane बोले तो single bond, oic acid बोले तो carboxylic functional group, right? So to make this, I have to put 2 carbons because it's eth. Now, as you remember, I have already informed you guys this thing in part 1 of carbon and its compound. If functional group has its own carbon atom, we will going to count it as number 1. So, ethanoic acid wala carbon is number 1 and other carbon is 2. So, I have to satisfy carbon with tetravalency, and that can be done by attaching hydrogen to it. So, this carbon requires 3 more bonds and hydrogen will be attached to it. This carbon has already 4 bonds, double bond with oxygen and single bond with other carbon, single bond with hydrogen, and ta-da! That's the structure of ethanoic acid. Okay? Ethanoic acid is commonly called as acetic acid. It belongs in the group of carboxylic acid. So, if you guys remember vinegar, you have learned about that in acid, bases, and salts, that acids are usually sour in nature. Sour bole to khatta, right? So, this particular term comes from a Latin term, acetum, which means sour. So, we use acetic acid into vinegar, but obviously in quite diluted form. We cannot consume acetic acid in its pure form, though it's a weak acid, but still it's quite dangerous if it's consumed pure. Now, it comes in a very extremely diluted form in vinegar bottle, and still it's quite sour and you cannot consume it directly, and it has a very strong smell as well. If you go to your kitchen, open vinegar ka bottle, it gives you a quite strong smell, and if you try to taste it, it's quite khatta, that's quite sour. So as we look onto the physical properties of ethanoic acid, it's a colorless liquid, sour and smell of vinegar. 5 to 8% solution of acetic acid in water. Are you getting how much diluted it something which you are consuming at your home? 5% of acetic acid and 95% of water, and still it is strong and you cannot consume directly. Now imagine how strong and how harmful will be the pure form of acetic acid, and we call it as weak acid. So weak is not weak for us, for human body to consume, right? So 5 to 8% solution of acetic acid in water is vinegar. So it's widely used as a preservative also in pickles because it has that sour nature. Melting point of pure ethanoic acid, guys, it's 290 Kelvin, and it actually freezes during winter time. Once it freezes, it gives you a look of a glacier, and that's why pure acetic acids are also called as glacial acetic acid. This comes for 1 mark question also, why pure acetic acid are called as glacial acetic acid. So this should be your answer. The melting point of pure ethanoic acid is 290, and it freezes during winters, which looks like a glacier, which looks like ice. So yes, pure ethanoic acid is also called as glacial acetic acid. I hope that is clear to all of you. Now it's time for us to jump onto some chemical locha of ethanoic acid. How ethanoic acid actually behave towards other elements. So let's take a look. Okay. Starting up with esterification reaction. What does esterification reaction means? And please mark it as very, very, very important. Comes for 3 to 4 marks directly. Esterification bole to formation of ester. Esterification bole to formation of ester. Now, what are esters? Esters have a very fruity smell. And literally, if we try to prepare it in laboratory, it actually gives that fruity smell, which is used in bakery items, which is also used in perfumes also. So whenever you get a chance in higher grades to do a esterification reaction, always be present there, because it's actually something you can feel it, you can smell it. So what's happening in esterification reaction? We have seen reactions for ethanol. We have seen what's ethanoic acid. So if we react ethanol with ethanoic acid, what will happen? Guys, ethanol with ethanoic acid would result into formation of ester. So let me open this and show you the reaction completely. So CH3, CH2, OH, right? This is the formula of ethanol. And if it reacts with ethanoic acid, so can I put this way? If I put OH here and H here, is there a difference? Tell me, guys, in the chat box. If I put OH here and H here, is there a difference? No, it is ethanol only. Rather, if I put OH in this terminal or on the other terminal, they are same only. So this is also ethanol. Now, ethanoic acid, CH3, C double bond OH. Okay? Now, this reaction also takes place in presence of concentrated sulfuric acid, and we heat it. Here, concentrated sulfuric acid will act as a catalyst. Okay? So, in esterification reaction, concentrated sulfuric acid is acting as a catalyst, whereas in dehydration reaction of ethanol, it was used as a dehydrating agent. So that's the difference what they asked in a question form in board exams. So what will happen? OH and H will be out. Okay? So water is out plus what is left? Whatever is left, make a bond. So CH3, C double bond O. There is O here, if you all can see, O. CH2 and CH3. What's that? That is ethyl ethanoate. This is the formula of ethyl ethanoate, which is produced, and that's none other than ester, which has a fruity smell, which is used in bakery items and in perfumes also. Okay, समझला? Here, boss, how to form the product? It's very, very simple. OH and H will be removed from ethanoic acid and ethanol. HOH is nothing but it's water. What is left is make a bond and you get your product. That's esterification reaction. Simple, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Give me a thumbs up in chat box if it's clear, if you understood, and it's subtle. So now let's take a look on a second chemical property of ethanoic acid. See, ethanoic acid, that means it can easily, smoothly makhan react with base to give salt and water. You all have learned this in utilization reaction in previous chapter. When acid reacts with base, that gives salt and water, which is double displacement utilization reaction. So let's take a look on this reaction as well. Ethanoic acid, which is CH3, C double bond O, OH. When reacts with NaOH, that's a base. So what will happen? Water will be formed. That means HOH would be out, and what is left is going to be your product. So what's left is CH3, CH3, right? C double bond O, C double bond O, O Na. So that's your product. So that results into formation of salt and water, and this is none other than neutralization reaction. So please don't get afraid from these bonds and these structures and all. It's so simple. You just have to open these structures and try to make a reaction that simplify your job a lot. No ratification is required in this case. So please don't worry. Try to practice open these structures and make the products. Alright guys, on that note, let's move on to next chemical locha. See, you guys have already learned about these things in previous chapter. There should not be any difficulty about the concepts. You know that metal carbonates and metal bicarbonates are basic substance and they can easily react with acid. So let's react ethanoic acid along with any metal carbonate or bicarbonate. So let's try that out with the sodium carbonate. Yeah. CH3 C double bond OH. Ethanoic acid reacts with sodium carbonate, which is Na2CO3. Now you all remember, if acid reacts with any metal carbonate or bicarbonate, that gives you salt, water, and carbon dioxide. So guys, there is nothing new here. There is no rocket science here. You will get the same products in this case also. So what will happen? CH3 C double bond O, ONA, same product. Na will going to replace hydrogen. Okay, that will going to form water plus carbon dioxide. That's your product. See, carbon dioxide and water are fixed. You have to just remove H. Na will take its position and rest are the byproducts that you will get as per the general reaction which you have already learned in previous chapters. So I hope that is crystal clear. Solid a boss, give me a thumbs up in chat box. Come on. Alright guys, now it's time for us to be introduced to something which we are using in our day-to-day life, and that's soaps and detergent. You must be thinking, ma'am, we use them. What do we have to know about them now? Dove comes as one of the nicest soap. Then there is Pears, and then this and that. What else is left for us to learn? So, guys, there is a chemical locha that you have to learn what is happening behind the scenes, what's happening inside soaps and detergents, how there is a cleaning property which is introduced in soaps, how that happens in detergent also, and which is better. Is soap better or detergent? So let's have a look in this particular topic, some chemical lotion properties of soaps and detergent. And please don't get scared looking at these big formulas. They are very, very simple and you just have to learn one of it. So guys, what are soaps actually? Soaps are made by saponification reaction. You guys have learned about esterification reaction just a while ago. Esterification reaction happened when ethanoic acid reacted with ethanol that produced a fruity smelling product, which is ester. Opposite of esterification reaction is saponification reaction, which produces soap. So soaps are a very long chain of sodium salt or potassium salt, long chain of fatty acid, which helps in cleaning in water. Example, sodium stearate. Sodium stearate is C17H35COO minus Na plus, means we are using 17 carbon, 35 hydrogen, and we have ionic end here, ions of CO minus Na plus. There is another example here, sodium palmitate, which is C15H31 CO minus Na plus. Now it's your choice. You can pick any one example. The most commonly used example, let me advise you guys, is sodium stearate. You just have to remember at least an example here. No one is asking you to make the structure for that. Now, how to do a saponification reaction? To write saponification reaction, it's easier for you to write the esterification reaction once again. So I'll be writing esterification for you. Esterification reaction. What was esterification? A reaction between ethanoic acid and ethanol, right? So ethanoic acid is CH3, C double bond OH. Ethanol is HO, CH2, CH3, right? That is CH3, CH2OH. In presence of concentrated sulfuric acid, we will be removing water. Now, what is left here is an ester, which is CH3, C double bond O, O. CH3, C double bond O, O. Then we have CH2, CH3. Okay, plus water. What is it? It is ester. Samizla. Now, what I told about saponification, opposite of this is opposite of esterification is saponification reaction, but it takes place under certain conditions. Now, what are those conditions? The process of making soap will happen by the hydrolysis of fats and oils with alkali. Now, I'll take this ester, okay, CH3, C double bond O, O, CH2, CH3. Now we are hydrolyzing it. Hydrolyzing bole to dissolving it into water. That means I can write aqueous. In presence of alkali, a strong alkali is NaOH. So what will happen? This product will be formed. Na will come with this part and OH will go with the other part. So that would create CH3, C double bond O, O, Na plus C2H5OH. So guys, that creates the sodium salt of chain, carbon chain, and what you have got is alcohol here as another product. So if you remember, while creating the esterification reaction, we have used what? We have used ethanoic acid with ethanol. We got alcohol also. So opposite of esterification reaction is saponification reaction. In simple words, if I say long chain of fatty acids of sodium or potassium ions will be the formula for soap. So this is how a structure of soap is made. A long chain along with some ionic aid. Now what is this ionic aid? COO minus Na plus. You remember a formula, sodium stearate? Sodium stearate, one of the example of soap which has C17H35 COO minus Na plus, right? C17H35. So this complete tail is C17H35. I'm not going to make and count 17 carbons and 35 hydrogens. I'm not going to do that. I'm just giving you a rough idea. This is a long chain of fatty acids. Okay, and that's the ionic part here, long chain of fatty acids with the sodium salt or potassium salt. That's how the structure of soaps are made. Now let me take you deep into these structures of soap. That's how they actually look under microscope, and we call it as micelle formation. What are micelles? These are the cluster of molecules of soap. Now, soap has two parts. Now, just like a tadpole structure, you've seen tadpole structure or a sperm structure, which has a tail and head, two parts, right? Tail part is considered to be as a carbon chain here. Carbon chain. Whereas this head is considered to be as the ionic part. So a soap molecule has two structures, two parts in the structure. One is tail side, another is head. Head is considered to be as the ionic part and tail is the carbon chain. Samajla? So cluster of soap molecules results into formation of micelle. Now this cluster is made into a very specific form. How come? Tails are kept inside, heads are outside. Such kind of cluster, group of soap molecules will then be called as micelle formation. So chain would be on the other side, inner side, and heads will be pointing on the exterior side. Such cluster is called as micelle formation, which helps in cleaning the dirt particles. Now, what's the mechanism here? Let me explain this to you one by one. Now, let's say we have placed a dirty cloth, very dirty cloth with oil and grease and other dirt particles sticked onto them. And once we dip that into a soap water, those soap molecules will get attached to those dirt particles. How will that happen? Now let's say there is a cloth with a dirt on it. This is or dirt or a grease or oil, any kind of dirt. Okay, and we have a soap solution. Fine. Now, as soon as you put this dirty cloth into soap solution, soap particles will make a cluster. Soap particle will make a cluster around dirt particle. Okay? What's a cluster here? Tail is on the interior side and head is on the exterior side. Head bole to ionic part is on the exterior portion, whereas the chain part, hydrocarbon chain part, is the interior portion. Okay, they have created a micelle formation around dirt. Okay, dirt particle. Now, what will happen? This ionic or a chain part, let's start with the chain part. Chain part is hydrophobic. Hydrophobic boleto has a phobia of water. They don't like water, but they are attracted towards dirt. Right? Whereas on the other side, ionic part, which is the head part, is hydrophilic. Hydrophilic boleto water loving, whereas chain is water hating. So that's why this chain part get attached to dirt rather than attaching to water. Whereas this head part get attached to the water in that particular solution. Now, once we try to wash clothes, what we actually do, we agitate the clothes while we are dipping it, we agitate it and try to remove that dirt particle. So while we are agitating it, these micelle formation or these chain part will going to extract the dirt particle from the cloth, and what results into dirty water, or in simple words, cloudy water. So what will happen? Your cloth comes out to be clean, but water becomes dirty, water becomes cloudy. And that dirty water, that cloudy water is actually a colloid. Colloid bole to, from which if you pass light, that will going to scatter. That beam of light will going to scatter. Samizla, clear boss, particle size would be 1 to 1000 nanometer. You remember, you guys have learned this in your grade 9. So the overall mechanism for cleaning a cloth in a soap solution, once you put dirty cloth into water, which is having soap water, micelle formation would happen around that dirt particle, and once we try to agitate it, the interior portion, that means the chain particles, which are chain which is already in connection, in hold with dirty substance or the dirt, will going to be extracted out while we agitate, and we left behind with the cloudy water with all the dirt settled into the water, and that turns as a colloid, and cloth comes out to be very, very clean. That's the complete mechanism of soap. But there is a little drawback here with the soaps. How soaps and detergents are different from each other. Now, usually in our day-to-day life, we don't use soap as a cleaning agent. We use detergent more frequently to wash our clothes. Did you know why? Why detergents have a better cleansing power as compared to soap? So there is a drawback with the soap. See guys, there are two types of water. Hard water, soft water. What does hard water and soft water means? In simple words, if I relate this to your day-to-day life, if you open tap, okay, a freshly cleaned tap, the flow of water would be very nice. But after few months, flow of water will be reduced. It will not be very fast. Then what do? You open the washer, you open everything, you clean it. And while you're cleaning it, there is a white color powder, a white crust which comes out. That white crust is what? That is hard water, guys. Because of hard water, a lot of blockage happens, whether it's your shower head, whether it's your tap, or in fact, boiling kettle. if you have a kettle where you boil water, after few months you will going to see there is a white crust which is formed at the bottom, and that's because of hard water. Hard water is so bad, not good for your skin, not good for your hairs, not good for your health, not good for the equipments you're using around you. But nowadays, because of water pollution, hard water is very common in most of the areas. Soft water can create lather very easily. Lather bole to foam. If I use this much detergent into hard and soft water, hard water will form very less lather, very less foam as compared to soft water. This is how we can actually differentiate between soft and hard water in our household purposes. Okay. So, soap differs from detergent in action in hard water. Soap does not work well with hard water, but they do work well with soft water. That's the only problem. That's the only panga and a drawback with soaps. Soap does not work well, bole to. Soap does not give a better cleansing property with hard water. Why? Because soap ka particle, soap structure reacts with calcium and magnesium ions present in hard water. So in hard water we have a presence of calcium and magnesium ions. Okay? And soap particles, soap molecule will going to react with it, results into formation of scum. What is scum? Scum is a white color insoluble substance which settles on the clothes. Now, most of the time, you might have noticed this, especially with black clothes. Once they come completely washed, you might see some of the white spots on your clothes. Have you ever noticed? Especially, it's observed on black clothes. So, once they are freshly washed and still, it doesn't feel that it's washed, does not give that cleaning wala feeling because of those white spots. That white spots are nothing but that's scum. Scum is the insoluble substance which is made after a reaction between soap and calcium and magnesium ions of hard water. But in case of detergent, detergent does not show any kind of reaction like this. If we put detergent into hard water, there would be no reaction. There would be no scum formation. There would be no insoluble substance which is created. And that's why it gives a better cleansing property. So, detergent works well with soft and hard water, whereas soap has certain limitations with hard water, but it works well with soft water. Soft water does not have calcium and magnesium ions ka presence. I hope that is clear to all of you. So on that note, let's see what detergents are. Detergents are generally sodium salts of sulfonic acid or ammonium salts of chlorides and bromide ions. Both have long hydrocarbon chains. So they are somewhat look similar only. They also have a tail. They also have a head. Okay, so they works almost in the same manner, they looks almost in the same manner, but the only difference here is in the number of carbon in hydrocarbon chain and the ionic head. But they have two parts, a tail and a head. Detergents are also called as soapless soap, not hopeless soap. They are also called as soapless soap, and they work very well with both hard water and soft water. The charged ends bole to ionic part of these compounds do not form insoluble precipitate, bole to do not form scum in hard water. That makes it very effective towards cleaning. And let me tell you this also, guys, detergents are also used in your shampoos which you use. Acha, tell me one thing, honestly. When we buy very expensive shampoos and conditioners, usually in houses, the older people never understands this, and they ask us, why are you spending too much on these things? In our time we to wash it from soaps only, we to use mitti and stuff. They just give their own experiences that why you spending too much on these chemicals and all. But nowadays we are getting hard water everywhere. The time when they used soaps in their hairs for washing their hairs was a time when pollution was not too much, when water was not polluted too much, air is not polluted too much, so it worked very easily. But now we really need certain things. We need something which works well with hard water. Do not create that insoluble thing. How will it feel if a crust is created in our roots? You, right? That's you. So we have to use certain things uh, to clean, because detergents have a better cleansing property than soaps. And yes, detergents are used in shampoos also. But there is one sad thing. Guys, most of the detergents are non-biodegradable, where soaps are biodegradable. So knowingly or unknowingly, we are actually destroying the environment. So detergents are non-biodegradable, whereas soaps are. So soaps contain, let's have a look on the difference. Soaps contain sodium carboxylate, that means sodium salt of long chain of fatty acids, whereas they contain sodium sulfonate group. In soaps, they are not suitable for washing with hard water, but they are very, very good friends with both soft and hard water. Soaps have a relatively weak cleansing property, whereas they have a stronger cleansing action. As we talk about detergents, soaps are biodegradable, where detergents are non-biodegradable, which is a sad truth, guys. So, guys, as we have come to the end of this chapter, still, if you have any doubts, just feel free to ask me in the chat box. I would love to answer your doubts. And please go through part 1 to understand part 2. Right? So, what we have learned today is all chemical properties of carbon and its compound. Along with that, we have also completed soaps and detergents. And not only that, we have also covered ethanol and ethanoic acid. Now, the ones which are very, very important is esterification reaction, dehydration reaction, then reaction which has a conversion of vegetable oil into vanaspati ghee, which is a substitution addition reaction. Those are very, very important, right? So please go revise it again and learn the reactions by writing. Do not try to verbally learn these reactions. That's a bad way to do it. All right, guys, answer on screen. Do check it out if you have given this correct answer for the questions I've given you in the first slide today. So the final solution, IUPAC name for this one is 3-methyl heptane. And for this one, 1, 2, 3 carbon, this is aldehyde group, which has a suffix as okay, OH, sorry, it's OH, C double bond. It's carboxylic group. Carboxylic group. Okay, so it's propanoic acid or propane 1-OIc acid. My bad, guys. All right. So that's the final answer, and this is your homework question. As a ritual, do give me the answer in the chat box. The simplest aldehyde here is methanol, ethanol, propanol, or butanol. Let's see how many of you can find the answer. That was it from my side, guys. It was lovely, lovely meeting you. फिर मिलेंगे जल्दी जल्दी. This is me, Rashta Sir. Signing off. Take care, stay safe, stay happy. Bye. Take care.